I think I fell in love with her at a Tuesday. It wasn't a special Tuesday. It was the kind of day where the rain hadn't decided if it was coming or going, leaving the world outside the cafe window a smear of gray and green. I was nursing a cold Americano, the bitter taste of a failed manuscript in my mouth. And then she walked in. Elara didn't enter a room so much as she calibrated it. She was in her mid-40s, with threads of silver gleaming in her dark hair, not hidden but worn like trophies. She wore a simple, cream-colored sweater, and she carried the quiet weight of a story I immediately wanted to read. She took the armchair opposite my usual table, pulling a worn novel from her bag. She didn't look at me. Not at first. An hour bled away. I was lost in the terrible sentences on my screen when I heard it, a soft, frustrated sigh. I glanced up. She was staring at her own book, a slight frown on her face. Then, as if feeling the weight of my gaze, her eyes lifted and met mine. It wasn't a quick, startled look. It was a long, quiet assessment. Her eyes were the color of weathered sea glass. She gave a small, self-deprecating smile. "I've read this paragraph 3 times, she said. Her voice was lower than I'd imagined, a warm, melodic contralto. "Maybe it's the paragraph's fault," I offered, my own voice feeling rough and used. Her smile deepened, touching the corners of her eyes. "An optimist. I like that." That was the first hook. A tiny, insignificant moment that anchored itself in my chest. The second came when the barista, a flustered new kid, brought her a fresh tea. As he set the porcelain cup down, his elbow jostled my table. My coffee cup wobbled, a dark wave sloshing over the rim and onto my notebook, and onto the sleeve of her sweater. We both jumped up. "I'm so sorry, the kid stammered. But I wasn't looking at him. I was looking at her, at the dark stain blooming on her cream-colored sleeve. "I'm sorry," I said, grabbing a clutch of napkins. "It's nothing," she said, but her voice was tight. Our hands met as we both reached for the mess. My fingers, clumsy and cold, brushed against the back of her hand. A jolt, sharp and sweet, went through me. Her breath hitched, a tiny, almost imperceptible sound. For a moment, we were frozen there, my hand over hers, the heat of her skin searing through the thin paper napkin. She was the first to pull away, but slowly. Her eyes found mine again, and the sea glass was now stormy, full of something unreadable. Embarrassment? Or something else? "It's just a sweater," she whispered, more to herself than to me. I could still feel the phantom warmth of her hand on my fingertips. The air between us had changed, charged and thick. The quiet of the cafe was no longer peaceful, it was a held breath. And then, the bell above the door chimed, sharp and intrusive. Her eyes darted toward the sound, and her whole posture shifted. The subtle vulnerability I'd seen vanished, replaced by a stiff, almost formal composure. A man stood in the doorway, his eyes scanning the room before landing on her with a familiar, possessive ease. Her husband. She looked back at me, and in that single, fleeting glance, I saw a silent apology, a warning, and a door closing before it had even fully opened. I started seeing her everywhere after that. Or maybe I was just looking for her. It turned out she lived just a few streets over from my cramped studio. Our neighborhood, a quiet pocket of the city, became a map of potential encounters. The farmer's market on Saturday, the little bookshop with the grumpy cat, the park where I went to run when the words wouldn't come. Her name was Elara. I learned it by chance, overhearing a neighbor greet her. "Elara. How's David?" The name of the man from the cafe. Her answer was always polite, a smooth, "He's well, thank you," that gave nothing away. I learned her routines. She bought flowers every Thursday, never roses, usually lilies or wild-looking sprays of greenery. She read on a specific bench in the park, always alone. I found myself structuring my days around the possibility of seeing her, a gentle obsession that hummed under my skin. I'd tell myself I was just going for a walk, but my route always seemed to curve past her house, my eyes lifting to her second-floor window, a silent, shameful vigil. One evening, a sudden downpour caught us both in the park. I was under the thick canopy of an oak tree, watching the sheets of water turn the path to mud. She came running, her coat pulled over her head, and ducked under the same canopy, breathless. She saw me and stopped, a startled laugh escaping her. "Of course," she said, pushing wet hair from her face. "It's you." "The universe has a strange sense of humor," I replied, my heart hammering against my ribs. We stood there, the scent of wet earth and her perfume, jasmine and rain, filling the small space. The air between us crackled with the unspoken memory of the cafe. "I'm not usually a stalker," I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. She looked at me, a real smile touching her eyes this time. "Aren't you? I see you, you know. On Elm Street. Outside the bookshop." She wasn't accusing me. She was acknowledging me. A flush crept up my neck. She had seen me watching. I had no excuse. "It's okay," she said softly, her gaze dropping to the space between our feet. "It's a small neighborhood." We stood in silence for a moment, listening to the drumming rain. Then, she shifted, her shoulder brushing lightly against my arm. It was a casual contact, born of the cramped space, but it sent a current through me. I didn't move away. Neither did she. Her breath brushed against the side of my neck, warm and quick. I could feel the heat radiating from her body, a stark contrast to the chill of the rain-splashed air. My hand, hanging at my side, twitched with the insane urge to reach out and touch the damp sleeve of her coat, to confirm she was real. She looked up at me, her eyes searching mine. The gentle jealousy I felt for the life she had, for the man named David, melted away, replaced by something more profound, more terrifying. In that suspended moment, under the dripping leaves, there was no age gap, no social perception, no husband. There was only the electric space between our lips, the unspoken question hanging in the rain-heavy air. The rain eased to a drizzle, but neither of us moved. The world outside our leafy shelter was a blurred watercolor, and in here, the air was thick with everything we weren't saying. She began, her voice barely a whisper, but she didn't finish. She just looked at my mouth. My own breath hitched. I leaned in, just a fraction, an unspoken question. Her eyes fluttered closed. The sharp, cheerful ringtone of her phone shattered the silence. Her eyes snapped open, wide with a sudden, gut-wrenching guilt. She fumbled in her pocket, her hands trembling. She didn't look at the screen. She didn't have to. "David," she said, the name a bucket of cold water between us. She answered, her voice artificially bright. "Hi. Yes. Just got caught in the rain. I'll be home soon." Home. The word was a lock clicking into place. She listened for a moment, her free hand nervously smoothing her wet hair. Her eyes met mine, and they were full of a panicked apology. "I'm sorry. This is my life. This is real. I know. 10 minutes, she said into the phone, her gaze still tangled with mine. She ended the call, the silence that followed louder than the rain had been. "I have to go," she said, but she made no move to leave. "Elara," I said. It was the first time I'd ever said her name aloud. It felt like a confession. A shudder went through her. She took a half step back, then stopped, her resolve crumbling. This is a terrible idea. You know that, don't you?" "I don't know anything right now," I admitted, my voice rough. "Except that I think about you all the time." It was too much. I saw the fear in her eyes, fear of the scandal, the whispers, the sheer impracticality of us. The fear of hurting someone. Of being judged. "I'm too old for this," she breathed, but it was a weak protest. "You're not. We were standing so close I could see the tiny droplets of rain caught in her eyelashes. The space between us was a live wire, humming with a dangerous, irresistible energy. Every rational thought screamed for us to step apart, to let the moment die. Instead, her hand came up. Her fingers, cold from the rain, brushed a stray, wet lock of hair from my forehead. The touch was fleeting, a ghost of a caress, but it sent a jolt straight to my core. It was more intimate than any kiss could have been. Her breath caught. My hand found hers, our fingers threading together for a single, heart-stopping second. It was an answer. A surrender. Then, she pulled her hand away as if burned, turned, and walked quickly into the fading light without a backward glance. But the ghost of her touch remained, seared into my skin, pulling me closer to her even as she disappeared from view. The following Thursday, I saw her in the flower shop. She was alone, holding a single, perfect white lily, her back to me. My feet carried me inside before my mind could protest. The bell above the door chimed. She turned, and the sight of her, the slight widening of her eyes, the way her fingers tightened around the green stem, was a physical blow. We stood frozen amidst the blooms and their overwhelming perfume. The shopkeeper was in the back. It was just us. "I can't stop thinking about you," I said. The words were out, raw and unvarnished, hanging in the fragrant air between us. There was no taking them back. A soft, wounded sound escaped her lips. She looked down at the lily, her thumb stroking its delicate, waxy petal. "Don't." "Why?" She finally looked up, and her eyes were glistening. "Because it's impossible. Because I lie awake next to him and all I can feel is the ghost of your hand on mine. Because I'm 46, and you have your whole life ahead of you. This is a detour for you. For me, it would be," she shook her head, unable to finish. "It would be everything." I took a step closer. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of flowers and her quiet despair. She didn't retreat. "It's not a detour," I whispered, my voice low. I reached out, my hand trembling, and brushed a stray strand of hair from her cheek. My knuckles grazed her skin, and she leaned into the touch, her eyes closing for a brief, surrendering second. A single tear traced a path down her cheek. I caught it with my thumb. Her breath hitched. She was so close I could feel the warmth radiating from her, could see the frantic pulse at the base of her throat. Her lips parted. "Elara," I breathed, her name a prayer, a plea. This was it. The breaking point. The moment that couldn't be undone. Every atom in my body was screaming to close the infinitesimal distance, to finally know the taste of her. My head dipped. Her eyes were wide, locked on mine, filled with a terrifying mix of fear and a longing so deep it mirrored my own. Her body swayed toward me, a silent, undeniable answer. Our lips were a hair's breadth apart. I could feel the whisper of her exhale. The world had shrunk to this single, suspended point, the space between a breath and a kiss. And then, her phone, left on the counter beside her, lit up. The screen didn't ring. It just glowed, illuminating a name. David. The name on the screen was a splash of ice water. Elara jerked back, her hand flying to her lips as if she could already feel the ghost of the kiss that hadn't happened. Her eyes, wide with a fresh wave of panic, darted from the phone to me. He's just checking in," she whispered, but it sounded like a lie she was telling herself. I didn't move. The air, once charged with desire, was now thick with a different kind of tension. The truth of her life, of the man waiting for her, was a physical presence in the room, shoving us apart. "Elara," I said, my voice low and rough. "Look at me." She forced herself to meet my gaze. The longing was still there, a banked fire, but it was shadowed now by a stark, terrifying fear. "Why are you here?" I asked. "Really? Not for flowers?" She wrapped her arms around herself, a defensive gesture that made her look younger, more vulnerable. "I don't know." "I think you do." A tremor ran through her. She looked away, her focus somewhere in the middle distance, on a bouquet of wilted roses. "He's not a bad man," she began, her voice hollow. "He's just absent. We've been a habit for longer than we've been a marriage. A comfortable, quiet habit." Her eyes found mine again, blazing with a sudden, shocking honesty. "And then you. You with your cold coffee and your quiet watching. You made me feel seen. For the first time in years, I felt seen. And it terrified me." The confession hung between us, more intimate than any touch. It was the why. The core of it all. It wasn't just about attraction, it was about a profound, aching loneliness I had accidentally stumbled into. My own jealousy, my resentment of this unseen David, shifted. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about her. The one who had been getting away from herself for years. I took a step closer. This time, it wasn't a move of passion, but of quiet determination. My body brushed against hers as I reached past her to pick up the white lily she had abandoned on the counter. The scent was overpowering. I held it out to her. Our fingers touched as she took it, a deliberate, electric connection. "Then stop being a habit," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "For one night. Just be seen." She stared at the flower in her hand, then back at me. The war in her eyes was over. The fear was still there, a frantic pulse at her throat, but it was drowned out by a new, resolute light. A decision. She didn't speak. She simply gave one sharp, almost imperceptible nod. Then she turned and walked out of the flower shop, the lily held tightly in her hand, leaving me standing alone amidst the ruins of her old life, the inevitable now rushing toward us. The text came an hour later. Just an address and a time. 9 p.m. Her house. I stood across the street at 8:55, the summer night air warm and heavy, like a held breath. The house was exactly as I'd imagined, neat, painted a quiet gray, with a well-tended garden. A light was on in an upstairs window. His car was gone from the driveway. The front door was unlocked. I pushed it open and stepped into the quiet hush of her home. It smelled of lemon polish and the faint, lingering scent of the lily, which now stood in a slender vase on the hall table. She was waiting in the living room, standing in the center of the rug, her arms wrapped around herself. She'd changed into a simple linen dress. She looked both terrified and utterly resolved. "He's at a conference," she said, her voice thin. "Overnight." The door clicked shut behind me, the sound final. We were alone. The space between us, just 10 feet of polished floorboards, felt like a chasm and a bridge all at once. I didn't move. "You don't have to do this." "I know," she whispered. "That's why I am." That was it. The choice. I crossed the room until I was standing right in front of her. We didn't touch. I could feel the heat from her skin, see the rapid flutter of her pulse in her throat. Her eyes were wide, drinking me in, reflecting the same terrifying, beautiful truth I felt. "I'm not a mistake," I said, my voice low. Her breath hitched. "I know." Her hand came up, slow, tentative. Her fingertips brushed against my jaw, a touch so light it was almost a question. I leaned into it, my eyes closing for a second. When I opened them, the last of her hesitation was gone, burned away by a raw, undeniable need. My hands found her waist, pulling her gently against me. There was no more space, no more air between us. Her body molded to mine, a perfect, shocking fit. She was solid and real in my arms, no longer a specter I watched from a distance. She looked up at me, her lips parted, her eyes full of a clarity that mirrored my own. There were no more words. No more promises to break or keep. No past, no future. There was only this. I lowered my head, and finally, after all the silence and the almosts and the fear, my lips found hers. It was not a gentle kiss. It was a confession, a release, a culmination. It was the answer to every unspoken question that had hung in the air between us since a rainy Tuesday in a cafe. It was messy, and raw, and human. And it was the most real thing that had ever happened to either of us. The world came back slowly. The taste of her, the feel of her hands tangled in my hair, the solid weight of her leaning into me. We broke apart, breathless, our foreheads resting together. The silence in the room was different now, not tense, but peaceful, filled with a new and profound understanding. A soft, disbelieving laugh escaped her. So that's what that feels like. I brushed my thumb over her cheekbone, my heart still hammering a frantic, joyous rhythm against my ribs. All the fear, the doubt, the hesitation about the years between us, it all felt like noise from another room, distant and irrelevant. Here, in this quiet space, there was only the truth of her skin under my hands. I was so afraid, she whispered, her eyes closed. Of being foolish. Of hurting you. Of what people would say. What do you feel now? I asked, my voice rough with emotion. She opened her eyes, and they were clear, certain. Quiet. She took my hand and led me to the sofa. We sat, not at opposite ends, but in the middle, her body tucked against my side, my arm around her shoulders. Her head found a resting place in the crook of my neck. I could feel the steady, calm rise and fall of her breath. My fingers traced idle patterns on her arm, learning the landscape of her. There were no grand declarations, no promises about a future that was still a tangled, complicated mess. There didn't need to be. This was enough. This was everything. The one that had been getting away was finally still. After a long while, she tilted her head back to look at me. What happens tomorrow? I kissed her forehead, a slow, lingering press of my lips. I don't know, I said honestly. But we'll figure it out. Together. She smiled then, a real, full, unguarded smile that reached her eyes and lit up her whole face. It was the laugh from the cafe, finally meant, finally free. She settled back against me with a contented sigh, her hand finding mine, our fingers intertwining perfectly. And for the first time, in a very long time, for both of us, there was no distance left to watch from. Did you feel the quiet intensity of their connection? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Let me know in the comments.